Good day, everybody. My name is Johnny Eliades, the owner and founder of the IE International Group of Companies. And today, I just want to touch on what do we think is happening in the property market. And lately, I've just been hearing from estate agents. I have had the best month of my life. Estate agencies are saying this is the best month in history. And people are buying property, but it is very confusing because if you think about it, where's the money coming from? Are people getting retrenched? Why is properties going up? And then this whole thing of companies are moving out of commercial property. So people don't want offices anymore, so they're moving to their houses and they're working from home. Corporates are saying, let's sell all the furniture. Why must we keep this building? Let's terminate the lease. And now all these buildings are standing empty. But on the other side, we are saying that the property sales are going up. How is that happening? Well, the big thing is interest rates. Okay, so if interest rates are currently at, I think 7%, interest rates are currently at 7%. You guys can't see that. 7%, right? That is where interest rates are. So when you go and borrow something, you are most probably going to borrow at 9%, depending on your credit status. And that means money is the cheapest it's been, most probably, if you're listening to this, in our lifetime. Money has been so cheap. So why are interest rates going up? You know, there are three things that govern. You have the interest rates that if you raise interest rates, money gets scarce because people have to pay higher interest rates, they have to pay higher bonds, they have to pay, so money gets scarce. And if money gets scarce, that affects inflation and it affects the exchange rate. So those three, I'm not going to go into that right now, but those three are there. You look at the interest rate, you look at the exchange rate, and you look at the interest rate, exchange rate, and inflation. Those are the three things you will look at in order to govern a country. Every time the Reserve Bank looks and says, listen, shouldn't we increase interest rate because inflation is going very high? Now, what type of inflation do you get? You get two types of inflations. You get the inflation of demand and supply. I am producing, so remember when all these masks came out? All these masks came out, and in a normal situation, the mask would be like 3 Rand, 4 Rand, and all of a sudden, they were selling masks for 40 Rand, 30 Rand. It was getting crazy, and people were making super profits. Okay? Super inflation. And the reason why is they couldn't produce those masks fast enough. So the supply was the supply was short, but the demand was very high. Now, over the months, when more companies got into producing the masks, and the world started getting masks, and then they started adapting and making masks from material, and that the mask price came down. So inflation is governed by supply and demand. Now, what other inflation do you get? You get inflation on the power of your currency. If your currency devalues, right, that means the buying power of that currency can't buy so much things, right? So the price goes up because the buying power, that rand is, you're going to have to pay much more rands to get a certain product. If you look at someone goes and buys a new cell phone, how many rands do you need and how many dollars do you need? You need much less dollars than you need rands because the rand is a weaker currency. So those are the two types of inflation. The reason I'm saying this, I want to come down to property. What's going to happen in property? So are we going to see the whole commercial or the office blocks all go empty? are those office blocks, are we going to drive past Sancton? Are we going to drive past places and they're all going to be empty? All these people, the Old Mutuals, the Discoveries, the banks and all that are going to sell their properties, which they are selling a lot of them. So there's a stage now, they're adapting to the market. Listen, we can do this from home. COVID taught us something, that we can do things from home. So a lot of people are reassessing their situation. Now, what happens if you're a property investor? If you're a property investor, what happens? Now, the one thing I always tell property investors, right? You got to look at something called cash flow. Cash flow. And it always must be positive. It must always be a positive cash flow. Now, do you know how many times I have heard that is impossible? Johnny, you just cannot buy a property. You can just not buy a property where you can be in a positive cash flow in month one. It's impossible. And I'm telling you, you're just not working hard enough and you're not looking at the right places. You're not looking at the right places. Now, first of all, obviously, if you want to take an opportunity, so I made an offer on a commercial property, and in my offer, I worked in the price. So I went and I made an offer, and the guy looked at my offer and he said, "Are you mad? How can you offer me such a small price?" I said, "Because listen, I don't believe I'm gonna buy your whole office block, but I'm not gonna have tenants, let's say, for the next 2 years. I could have in 6 months, but I'm working into the price that this property will be vacant for 2 years." Now, that is me guessing. That is me guessing. But I'm working it. So I know I will have a negative cash flow at the beginning, but I bought it for much less. I worked it into the price. So I said, listen, I was going to pay 10 million. Now I'm paying 5 million. So I'm saying 1 million is for the next 2 years to pay the expenses. If I had a tenant, I would pay more. But now money has become so cheap. Money has become so cheap, and now what has happened is people are saying, but hang on, I was renting for X amount. If I go take a bond and I buy the house, the bond is cheaper than the rent. The bond is cheaper than the rent. So I better go buy a house. Now, will he get the bond? Will he be able to it? That is if he still has a job. Does he still have a job that he can go and be able to pay the bond? You see, these are the things that you got to look at. Inflation, you got to look at buying power, you got to look at interest rates, and you got to shop more. So the one other thing is, if you can't find a property with a positive cash flow, you're not looking. So Robert Kiyosaki taught me one thing: to buy one property, you got to go and look at 50, a minimum of 50. There are these properties. And another thing is, don't look where everyone is looking. What do estate agencies work on commission? And the commission is based on the price. So the higher the price, the more money they make. What do you think their objective is? To sell you the property at the highest price. So they are there to make sure that you pay the right price, you pay the full price. I don't want to pay the right price. I want to pay under market value. I want to get a bargain. I want to get a deal, because I have one objective: always to be in a positive cash flow. Now, there are people that buy properties that are very strong cash and they don't care about a positive cash flow. That doesn't make the deal that they bought a good deal. That could have been the shittest deal ever, but they wanted the property. They looked on emotions. They bought on emotions. They are strong enough to cover the shortfall. And the worst thing you can do is to use your own money to buy property. The worst thing you can do is use your own money. Why would you ever do it when interest rates are at 7%, 9%? The lowest the property market is, the lower the interest has ever been in your lifetime, and you want to go and take cash, because cash is the best thing to invest right now. Not to keep your cash, not to keep your cash forever. You store your cash, wait for the opportunities. There are going to be so many opportunities going on. What happens if interest rates go up? They have to go up. They have to go up. Sometime they're going to go up. Now that guy who had a salary, he bought a property, who could afford the bond, no longer he can't afford it because the interest rates has gone up. When the interest rates go up, goods and services go up, petrol goes up, everything starts going up. Then those properties are going to come on the market and you are going to go buy them because they're most probably going to go to foreclosure. Do you see the opportunities coming? Then your cash is there to get into the deal. You need a deposit, yeah? You must go put a deposit down on the property because banks are not going to just give you 100% bond, especially if you're an investor. So these are the things that you guys got to look at. And let me tell you, I want to end off on this. I predict, now this is live, so you guys will tell me, I predict the guys who get to the office, they don't give up their office space. They keep their team in an office. Proximity is power. They're motivating, they're coaching them. They will always have an advantage in the marketplace over the company that all the employees are sitting at home. Because proximity is power. Great, Zoom teams can do something, but they cannot do when you're watching and you're coaching and you're training your team. Hey, what are you doing? Can I help you? What can we do? Let's brainstorm a bit. That proximity is power. And this is where companies are going wrong. Instead of taking advantage and closing good lease agreements to get your team into a good office space, because you can take that opportunity now. People are getting out of office space. And I'm saying to be safe, yes, COVID and that, but you can be safe because you can get office space much cheaper. So you can go and sign a 5-year lease. Is the COVID going to be here for the next 5 years? I don't think so. Sooner or later, things are going to go back to normal. And you have missed the opportunity to sign a great lease. You've missed the opportunity to go buy good office space that are sitting vacant, but you've got to work it into the price. Okay, this is Johnny Eliades, your success strategist, and I will see you at the top. Cheers, bye.